inspiring.
So, hey guys, I'm with my friend Zachary. We met about 3 days ago, and I think the thing that we share in common, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but we both think that God feels good, like He's meant to feel good. Would you agree that that's kind of
Yeah.
something that we share?
That statement.
Sorry.
No, you could.
Oh, sorry. You don't need to talk to them or whatever you feel like doing, or you can
This
just
is the
talk to me.
perfect one.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like, yeah, what does that statement mean? If I say God feels good, like, what do you mean? What do you think I mean by that?
To me, it goes to the immediacy of what I perceive as goodness, and goodness isn't a, it's not a choice. Like at the core of our being, every being knows what is good and right, and that's like we've developed such skills to contest that, to intellectually debate what is right. Like we developed a whole field of ethics and morals, but before those things were articulated as words, like we knew what was good. And that's what God is, and that's what God guides. Is that the deepest, subtlest feeling that you are in the right place, doing the right thing for yourself and the whole, your environment, your people, the space, nature is all in agreement with your action, and you can feel that inside. That's the depth of what I get out of that statement.
Oh yeah, the word good, like. I mean, I meet a lot of Christians, and they're like, even like my dad, I'm like, are you happy? I told him, like, man, I want you to be happy. I had this moment where I called my dad, and I was crying, and I was like, because I had a vision, it was crazy. I looked at my messenger, and I was looking at it, and I was imagining that I was my father. I saw my father's hand. This is when I was deep in meditation and prayer, right? So I pulled up my phone. I became my father, and the hand became my father's hand, and I looked at where it said Dad on Messenger, and somehow it became Derek, and I thought, what would I like to hear from my son that would make me feel like a man, that would make me feel like a good father, which would produce this love that would like become like a love cycle where I'm showing him love to make him realize that he's a good father, that he can be like for what he is, you know, and how would that come back to me and like connect, like restore the relationship. And I had that like thought, man, and I was like crying and stuff. But and then I called him and I was like, Dad, I want you to know that, like, because he didn't understand this all his life, like God feels good. When I told him that, he was like, no, you got to be careful with that way of thinking, Derek, because, you know, you got, and he just kept saying, you gotta, and you have to, and you have to, and like, this language of have to, got to, have to, it's not freedom. It's not the freedom that God wants us to have, but unfortunately, even me speaking right now, I'm sure a lot of church goers would be like some dissonance in their head. They're like, yeah, of course it's about have to, got to. Yeah, but if you're really following God, if you're really communing with Him, He teaches you love. The more you love, you realize love feels good. The more you love and love Him, it's like things flow easily and life becomes easy, and it's all just good. And there's no have to, because if you have to, it means you're trying. It means you're trying to do works unnaturally.
There's I think it's like a full circle. It's really hard for each person to arrive in the conversation in the place that we're talking about, because a lot of people, including myself, we're all undergoing the witnessing where we're putting too much of that false effort, not false effort, but a expectation that leads to an example of something rather than the experience. So it's like, I'm gonna act good because I know what's good. By the book, you follow the rules in the book, and you're a good person. Even though at the end of the day, I'm still yelling for everyone that didn't help me. You know, I'm still feeling victimized and unloved.
Unappreciated.
At the end of the day, that's not God and guidance. We shouldn't end our day feeling bitter if we're following the rules, right? But we don't follow the rules because we're supposed to. We follow the rules because that's our nature. That's our natural way of being. It's not something we have to be or do. It's something we are when we feel it, right? So when we feel the goodness and love, we embody that without such focus on the context or the literary explanation of what it looks like, but the full embodiment of that freedom and the origin of it. Like the man who gave us all of this didn't do it from a book, and he didn't learn it from a book. So why are we the word? And this is where I've heard a preacher break down the word, right? The word is God. What is a word, and how do you experience a word? I'm gonna say word right now. Word. A word is a sound created from a vibration. My vocal cords are vibrating. And I say word, so something causes me to vibrate, vibe, and send a vibration out of my face into your ears, and then your eardrums vibrate to feel, to hear, but they're feeling the word I shared with you, right?
Right.
That's an experience. We think we're just hearing words, but we're sharing a vibration, right?
Dude, yeah.
And that to me is the difference between following a rule and experiencing the nature, the lesson, right?
I see what you're saying.
That I don't know. Maybe it's a bit
so
too
it's
far
almost
out.
like, no, I get that. It's like we get confused about when we say word, and if we've had a religious upbringing. You mean the whole idea of chanting stuff at church, like call and response, or like let's repeat this word, and everybody repeats it. I haven't been to a church that does that for a long time, except for a Chinese church. But it's almost like devaluing or getting away from the original idea that you said about.
I think it's trying to enter from where we're at, which is in our minds, right? So it's intellectualizing the word, which is the spirit, right? The vibration. If you take the vibration into your body and your breath, you might experience it. But if you're trained, right, we're conditioned to take the word, the vibration, only into our head, and to say, is this authentically real? And you cannot experience things through your thoughts. It's only a gate to curiosity that opens the system, right? So it's like, we cannot experience the word through reading. We experience like the word through reading and then allowing,
and then
like,
responding,
right? The envelopment of that. And if we keep it intellectualized, we just run a script, and then we follow the script, and it's like we're actors in a God movie instead of God playing us, right? Like we're one's a show and the other one's life, right? And they're so close together because we're in a deep state of analysis and learning about what it is, right? So everyone is going through these layers of pretentiousness and inauthenticity. Trying to find what we're talking about.
I had an experience on Wednesday, because I sometimes feel as a Christian like this, and again, I'm on the fence about whether to say, I'm on the fence whether to call myself a Christian, because the idea and the word of Christian has become so messed up. And like, I talk to people from Europe, and they're like, yeah, Christian means Catholic, Mormon,
Protestant,
Lutheran, and they got all these denominations. But I'm trying to say Christian as in Antioch, when people started calling them Christian because they were little Christ-like ones. That was the original meaning of Christian. So I have to explain that. That's what I follow. That's what I try to follow Christ, right? So I sometimes feel this pressure, like which you were talking about before, about trying too hard and the inauthenticity. So I was like, I have to show people that I'm. It can be a trap too, like, that I'm enjoying this moment, and because I've got Jesus, and like if it's a pressure.
You love God, you should feel compelled to share the word, right? Like that's almost an obligation.
No, well, at that moment it was more like because honestly, with my music stuff, like the more that I've grown close to God, the more He's shown me how to enjoy music and playing improvisation. And I almost felt sometimes at that time, I almost felt like I have to, it became have to show them that I am relaxed because God is showing me about how to enjoy music and how to express yourself more. And then I took on that, right? And then I went to the bathroom and I was like, I took a little break and I'm like, why am I putting this pressure? Like, no, just love people. That's all. Just like love. When you're jamming with musicians, like love them, love yourself, like genuinely feel it. That's another reason I say God feels good, because it's like love, in my opinion, is a decision, and then it's a feeling that's kind of evident of that decision.
And
Yeah.
I was so last. I think between the time that you mentioned that statement first, like 2 days ago, and now, there's been a lot of lightness, just attitude shifting in the what we're sharing. And yeah, yesterday I was thinking, like, when you feel indecisive or in between two decisions, like sometimes it's not the easiest way, or it's not easy to become clear when we feel confused, right? But to remember, the truth is not confusing. The truth does not confuse, right? We confuse ourselves.
Confusion is from hell.
And confusion is the misunderstanding of what the truth is based on our condition, right? So it's like we're confused because we don't know, we can't discern the truth, but the truth is never trying to confuse us. And the truth is always there for us, right? To experience it as it is. And to know that allows me to follow. So it's like you follow the good feeling,
Exactly.
the true good feeling. And when
yeah.
you feel confused, back up and go to your book, go to your word, go to your guidance, go to the context again to get yourself back in line, because you don't feel guided. But when you feel guided, stop reading, stop being a repeat. Be yourself. Feel that. You're allowed. You're loved. Like that feeling is the truth guiding, right? And then we get deceived 10 times in a day. So we should read a little bit and then act in accordance with the intuition, the feeling, because it's trying to align us with truth, and it shouldn't be confusing, right?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's a bit radical or far out for I think a lot of people to think this way, but in the essence of freedom, not in rebellious freedom, but in honest freedom, in loving freedom. We should be able to explore our uniqueness without feeling any shame or guilt about being unchristlike, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of space to understand ourselves and to explore without crossing the line of not good.
Exactly.
Or taboo, or whatever.
Exactly.
All these layers of historical.
The Bible says, or Jesus said, I think it was Jesus that said it, or one of the apostles said, anything that's not done out of faith is a sin. So it's almost like when you're talking about following your heart, following your being, maybe it involves taking a risk, maybe it involves doing something that other people might judge, but there's this faith involved in following. Like, God loves me enough, He wants me to enjoy my life, He wants me to do something that my heart is telling me to do it by faith in His love for me, that He made me this way, He gave me this heart cry or this heart desire. I'm going to believe in this thing with faith in God's love. So it's almost like to not do that is a sin in a way. To not follow your heart could be more of a sin than to do. But I don't like the word. I mean, we've messed up again. We were talking about word connotations and how they've been changed over time. But anyway, how the word sin can make people cringe. But sin just the way I see it, it's just something that's not from faith. It's like
it's. I think it translates roughly to like a mistake. Like you mistook the action, right? Like I made the wrong choice out of I misunderstood. Like I did not see the right choice, so I took the wrong choice, right? It's like because even in if you go straight into the scientific mind, it's like our subconscious is running the show. We don't actually have much control over what we're doing in our day. But
Right.
we have to take full responsibility.
Yeah.
But we cannot blame each other
Mm-hmm.
and shame each other,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the feeling of not following your heart
Mm-hmm.
feels like sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is like, that's for us to begin to understand where we're not being honest with ourselves.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, we're inhibiting our own sense of freedom
Yeah.
in this false idea that we're gonna sin, or I'm a sinner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, as long as I follow these rules, then I'll stay safe and I won't be a sinner. But
That's
these
the
rules could be,
contradiction, yeah.
the idea and the way I perceive these rules could be the inhibitor of me actually following the true energy of the love inside of me, to be more free and to be more benevolent or playful, or like
Right.
eccentric in my behavior. Like, I don't have to be a sterilized,
Yeah.
homogenized being because I love God.
Well,
right?
maybe I could say a final thought just so we close it up.
cool.
But like what you just said about trusting in your heart, the thing about the watered down gospel, another thing that I've been taught growing up, is that you're a sinner and you're going to sin again, and nobody's perfect, and there is no such thing as like righteous. And if you say that you're righteous, people will be like, hey, that's blasphemy, that's not humble, and we boast in our ability to sin. But the gospel talks about how God sees us as clean, and when we act from that state, I believe it goes along with what you said. We allow ourselves to be more free and expressive and be ourselves more. That means any of the energy that's like would be like this, trying not to sin, trying not to break a rule, it becomes like, I am righteous, I am. Even righteous has a bad connotation right now in our society, but
It's funny how any decent words
yeah.
accumulate some
It's
kind
bad.
of speculation.
Exactly. I am not doing wrong. Okay, let's say like that. This whole day, I can't do a thing wrong. And ironically, paradoxically, when you take that position, you don't desire to do wrong because you're following your heart. There's nothing that's like wound up in you that makes you have to release by shouting at somebody or whatever. Yeah. Do you have a final thought? We should end it.
No, kind of like that. It's conclusive. It's like, like it goes along with many things. When we stop thinking to be a certain way and we just be that, we find ourselves embodied instead of in our head, right? And I think this is everyone's regular experiences. Like, we fluctuate from being over-analyzing of our interactions and having this social anxiety of just interacting as a human, and then feeling really comfortable and witnessed and like we can be ourselves around this group of people. And it's like, that feeling is ours to develop to the point where we can be ourselves in a way that is in line with like that feeling we're trying to secure of that obedience to this whole process, right? Like, there is an alignment that isn't you letting go of all these desires, but taming this feeling that you cannot into something that you're allowed to be yourself. And like, these desires to sin and all these things start to relax and kind of turn over or transform, and your bright side shows up for you. You know, it's
totally.
because on the opposite, like, all of these sins, the inversion of them is blessings and saintly behavior, right? So there's to cheat and like to control, and then there's to devote and give, right? Commit, right? And they're the same energy, the opposite sides of the spectrum. And it's like, we spend so much, final statement, we spend so much time trying not to be bad instead of embodying the nature of our good.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for Zachary coming on.
Sorry cap.
And it's not a Thai
I know.
channel. We're in Thailand. Sorry cup.
Thank you, Derek, for the impromptu.
I
hope you guys enjoyed that. That was crazy for me.
That was fun. Impromptu video. Cool.